Hello, I'm Richard and I'm one of the guides here at Gloucester Cathedral. Welcome back, because I've been talking about the cathedral precincts, the area around the precincts. And today I'm going to be talking about the area behind me, today called Miller's Green. But when this was a Benedictine monastery, this was a fairly private area of the monastery. This is where the abbot lived. The administration of the monastery was carried out. And to signify that, it was separated from the Great Court, and we've talked about the Great Court. It was separated from the Great Court by an archway, a gate, signifying the importance of this area. So let's go in to Miller's Green, sometimes known as Palace Yard, and I'll explain why when we get there. Well, hello, here we are in Miller's Green, sometimes known as Palace Yard. So what have we got here? What hits us first? Well, this building is the first thing that comes to mind. It's known as the Parliament Room. It's old, but it's built on a much older base. Dates from about the 1300s. The base probably went all the way down here to the gateway. But the upper room, the Parliament Room, was never bigger than you see today. Next to it, we have a fairly modern building in terms of the monastery, for it was built after the dissolution. Number 7 originally faced the other way, but today it faces into Miller's Green. It has been for a long time the residence of the director of music of the cathedral, and you can see a plaque on its wall commemorating Wesley, the cathedral organist, who was here for a long time. Next to it is a Georgian building. It's the deanery. And if you remember when we were in the lower court, Lower College Green, the deanery was part of the cathedral buildings. Next to it is the building that gives this area its name, for it's built on where the mill was, the Benedictine monastery mill was. It's been added to, it's been changed over the years, but in its basement, and I've seen this, is the old mill wheel. The wall you see behind me here would not have been here in Benedictine monastery times, for this would have been a grassed area. Behind us would have been the abbot's palace. So as you came in through that gateway, you would have seen the splendid abbot's palace. Today, it's a newer building, built about 1800 for the bishop, and today occupied by King's School. The rest of the buildings around here date from about 1700s, apart from the one in the corner. And I'd like to take you now and have a look at 3 buildings that were part of the Benedictine monastery. What I want to talk about in detail are these buildings here. Today covered with scaffolding, unfortunately, but that's part of the ongoing work that happens here around the precincts. The first building, number 4 Miller's Green, has got parts of the medieval monastery in its basement. It was for a long time, after the dissolution of the monastery, when Henry VIII closed the monastery, 1541, it became the residence of the King's School headmaster and the deputy headmaster. It is interesting that it's been divided into two, then brought back into one, and today it's now one accommodation. When I was researching this building, I discovered right at the top in the attic, inscribed on one of the windows, the name Sarah Payne. What that is doing there, who was Sarah Payne, is still a mystery. But we move on to a house that's not so much of a mystery. Number 3. Known for a long time as the common kitchen. Why the common kitchen? Well, it was the kitchen for the refectory for the monks. The refectory was a large building behind these houses that accommodated 80 or so monks when this was a very busy monastery. When the abbey closed, or the monastery closed, the clergy used the refectory as their own dining hall, but they didn't like it and it caught fire and it collapsed, and there's very little evidence of it today. You can see it from various places. And what was the common kitchen became a residence, a normal residence, and was a residence right the way through until quite recently. It's become the home of one of the clergy here. So the common kitchen was another of the important buildings in the monastery. We're now going to talk about some other important buildings in the next talk I give, and we're going to walk through here to the infirmary. So join me next time when I talk about the infirmary, little cloister house, and a thing called Babylon.